Barbell medicine. Now, I've used their templates both for myself and for clients. I've shared their articles for anybody I felt could benefit from their insight on pain and training. They are the topic that me and my girlfriend bonded over the first day that we met. And here's a little bit of footage of me at my most recent powerlifting meet. So, yeah, you could say that I'm a fan. So I'll admit to being biased as hell here, but I will try to tackle this review as objectively as I can. And as a reminder, I always review programs based on what they are claiming to be about. So I'm top loading the key points of this review, so if that's all you need, I'll let you get back to lifting or whatever it is you do in your spare time. I'm going to give this program an 8 out of 10. All in all, it does exactly what it says it's for, which is get people to go from not lifting to lifting. And if you are a total beginner to resistance training and you are not in a position where you can hire a coach, this is about as good as a starting point as you're going to find. There are flaws, and I will get into that, the big one being a lack of video exercise library. There are a handful of videos for the key movement types, but you are probably going to want something a little bit more comprehensive for the exercises you're not familiar with, which in theory is all of them. And the other concern that might be the case, depending on your own predispositions, is that you may find it a little boring. Definitely make a point of reading the instruction PDF that comes with it, as well as watching the 20-minute introductory video. But the fact is, I have used this template as a basis for my own beginner clients over the years, and they have across the board gotten results from it. So, let's dig into the review. The stated goal of this program is to help people who are not currently meeting the World Exercise Guidelines, more specifically in their case the American Exercise Guidelines, and get them to cross that bridge to performing those guidelines. Boy, this review is off to a weird start. The 2018 Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans recommend the following targets: 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity, or 75 to 150 minutes per week of vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity, and resistance training of moderate or greater intensity involving all major muscle groups on 2 or more days per week. So those exercise guidelines are pretty clear, but they don't provide a clear program of how to execute it. And so that's where this template is supposed to come in. They do write in cardio and daily recommendations for step count, but the resistance training, the lifting, is the centerpiece of this program for sure. Now, their own reasoning that they've offered for why is because in a 2017 National Health Interview Survey, 53.1% of adults aged 18 or over did meet the aerobic physical activity guidelines, so they were doing their cardio, but only 23.5% met the guidelines for both aerobic and muscle strengthening activities. In other words, they're picking up on the fact that people do seem to be more averse to lifting than cardio. We are all welcome to speculate on the reasons for that. Personally, I suspect it has to do with the sense of skill, since just about anybody can hop onto an elliptical or a treadmill and just give her. Whereas when it comes to lifting, what exercises to select, how heavily to load them, that's a whole lot more choices, and for a lot of people, I think that can be much more intimidating. So the main order of business with this template is the resistance training. Now, you train 3 times a week, and you are going to be starting off by picking a squat, deadlift, vertical press, horizontal press, and row movement. And then you just practice the hell out of those 5 exercises for at least 4 weeks and up to 16. And you basically just keep doing that until you either stop seeing gains or get bored, at which point you can move on to block 2, which introduces a little bit more variety. And then finally, when that one dries up, you can do block 3, which is similar to block 2, except it introduces heavy singles on the main movements. The idea is that once you've completed this program, you'll have a solid base from which you can go forth and adopt whatever focus that you like. So in grading this template, I'll mostly be considering that stated goal of helping people go from not lifting to lifting. Now, on effectiveness, full points. If you perform the program as written, you're going to get stronger, you're going to build muscle. One of the things that this program does that, in my opinion, sets it apart from similar novice programs is incorporating variety in rep ranges. I've covered Ice Cream Fitness on this channel before, and it shares a similar characteristic to programs like Starting Strength or Strong Lifts 5x5. There seems to be a consensus that the magical, most useful rep range is
sets of 5.
5.
Set of 5.
Is it just because 5 sounds really cool with a Texas accent?
You do sets of 5 and you add 5 pounds, and you do sets of 5 and you add another 5 pounds.
5. Do your 5s.
Well, that's stupid.
The beginner template has you tackle exercises in sets of 4, 8, 10, 12, and 7. 7. When have you ever seen somebody program 7 reps for an exercise? These guys do. And I think they do it at least in part to demonstrate that specific numbers of reps don't matter so much as, especially as a beginner, just doing a broad variety of rep ranges. On usability, that's going to get the lowest score. I'm giving it a 1 out of 2. The program's content is as good as a pre-made template can be for beginners, no question of that. The delivery, on the other hand, is less than perfect in my opinion. So there are 2 ways that you can use these templates to log your training. You can either use the spreadsheet, that's what they've been using the longest, it's available on Excel, but you can, I believe, move it over to Google Sheets if that works better for you. Or there's the app, which they introduced more recently. You can download the app itself for free, and even use its logging function for free, and then if you've bought a program on their website, you can just load it up on the app and give her a go. And you even get lifetime access to any updates they do, because they actually do change their views. As they have gained new information and new insight, they actually update their templates. So that's pretty nice to have access to, and it's cool for a content creator like this to not just update their views, but actually retroactively change their products based on that and make sure that you will always have access to that for free. The spreadsheets also provide no means of logging your GPP work, so that's kind of accessories, upper back, abs, arms, cardio. You don't really have the ability to log that within those spreadsheets. The app does provide a separate GPP workout where you can log all those, so definitely if you're using your phone to log your workouts, definitely use the app, not the spreadsheets. Cats. Cat break! However, both the app and the spreadsheets do have the same principal flaw, which holds this back for me, and that is a teeny tiny exercise library. It looks like they recorded videos for a handful of squat, bench, and deadlift variations, and then they called it a day. And that's too bad, because especially for a beginner template where people may not even be familiar with any of the exercises listed, may never have tried them before, giving them some kind of visual guidepost of how to tackle that, I think, is something that's really important to provide. And so that omission is significant. Now, I do get that these are busy people and they may not be in a position where it is convenient to record demos for all these exercises themselves. Sure, but anyone can sift through YouTube for the handful of exercises in the drop-down menu, pick a demo that you like from some other creator, and put a link to that in either the spreadsheet, the app, or the PDF file that comes with the program. So it's a really glaring omission, in my opinion, and for that I do have to dock the point. Especially because if you're leaving people to figure these things out on their own, the internet is the Wild West. You'll find multiple different videos where the same exercise has different names. You will find advice that is just plain bad. You'll find contradictory advice. And so leaving people to figure this out for themselves, I think, leaves way too much room for error. And most of all, way too much room for being overwhelmed again. And it's creating an obstacle to participation that I think should not be there. On the flexibility front, again, full points, 2 out of 2. I think they nail it. You get to choose everything. You get to choose which exercises you do. You get to choose how long you perform each block for. And you get to choose your own loads using either RPE or a percentage of your estimated 1 rep max, depending on the lift and depending on your preferences. Now, some might argue that beginners shouldn't use RPE to select their own loads.
This RPE bullshit has made people a bunch of money, but it's complete bullshit.
For those who don't know, RPE means rating of perceived exertion. It's just a rating of 1 to 10 of how hard the set was, with 10 being that was as many reps as I could possibly do, and 1 being what I'm doing right now, which is not performing a rep at all. Or am I? Now, for me, I really think that beginners not being familiar with RPE is all the more reason to start practicing right away, since The template comes with a clear description of how to gauge your effort set to set. It links to an Alan Thrall video on how RPE works, and even if people are off, which they probably will be in terms of their proximity to failure, RPE also factors in how subjectively hard it is, right? Ultimately, as long as you're gradually making a point of adding load session to session, week to week, I really don't think the stakes are all that high compared to just making it as easy as possible for people to pick this thing up and go. And as far as the exercise selection goes, I think they did a really great job of finding a small list of very similar movements for each category so that ultimately you're going to be doing those fundamental movement patterns in a way that can be overloaded. And if for some reason none of those exercises are viable for you, but you can think of one that is similar enough, you can just write it in and it'll auto-populate in the spreadsheet or the app and just proceed with the program with your own chosen and written in exercise. And I think that's fantastic. On enjoyability, 1.5 out of 2. As usual, your mileage may vary, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Whether or not you specifically will enjoy this program, you can probably gauge for yourself based on what you've heard so far. If you're all about variety and just treating the gym like a playground where you can do as many things as possible, total respect. Frankly, this program isn't for you, and you probably don't need it anyway if that is where you're at with your fitness journey at the moment. For me, the joy of training has always come from that sense of developing mastery, of getting better at the exercises you've chosen over time. And that can play out through adding weight or just getting more quality in the movements that you're doing and just feeling yourself getting better at it. And this program really does set you up for that outcome specifically. And if that is something that you know you're going to enjoy, then you're probably going to enjoy the program. And the best part is, if it reaches a point where you're starting to find it boring, great. Move on to the next block. And if you find the third block is getting boring, great. You're ready to graduate. You can take another one of their templates. Well, you can buy another one of their templates. Or you can write your own programming, or you can move on to another creator's program. At that point, you are set to go because you have built that skill base. Now, the only part where I ding it, kind of that half point on enjoyability, is that first block specifically and the narrow range of movements that you're going to be doing. There is actually a part in the podcast episode where they talk about how they arrived at the program in its current form, where they actually had a disagreement among themselves. I'll let you listen.
I think our biggest source of disagreement, and I understand why your position on like the first phase having way less variation potential than the second phase and third phase. So right now, the way you kind of reach the final form by phase 3 of the beginner template, which has the amount of exercise variation we'd like a newer trainee to be engaging in, after they've bought into it, the adherence is good, right? And they're sort of ready to engage in that variation if they want to,
Personally, I'm in agreement that just having 9 main lifts in the beginning, or at least slots for 9 main lifts in the beginning, and leaving it up to the user if they wanted to just practice the same lift in different ranges, or use those different slots to try different exercises. Just giving people that option, I think, would have been a little bit better for enjoyability, but I understand why they chose what they did, and it's not that big of a deal, for at least in my opinion. And on value, I'm giving it a 1.5 out of 2. The value proposition is particularly strong when you consider that the entire first block and all the resources to run it are free. They're free in the form of the beginner prescription, which is available through their website, link in the doobly-doo below. You don't need to commit any money up front to get started on this thing. Now, if you are running this first block and loving it, then absolutely I would advocate, if you have the money to spend it, to get a hold of the entire beginner template, because blocks 2 and 3 build off of the first block so nicely. But I do understand that it is important to make these resources available for free, especially when they're putting their money where their mouth is about trying to remove obstacles from people getting into resistance training. Where I dock that half point is the same place as before. The lack of an exercise library is a problem. The beginner's prescription provides you with all the videos you need to get started, specifically through those Alan Thrall exercise technique videos. But as you incorporate more variety, it is important to understand how to bring those different exercises into the program. And since they don't really give you a clear idea of how to do that, for me, that is the docking of half a point on the value side. So that's my review of the Barbell Medicine Beginner's Template. I do think that this is the gold standard for novice programming. It's a bit dry, and I do wish they'd included that exercise library, but apart from that, this is a great starting point for someone who is looking to start their journey into resistance training. I think it makes it very accessible in a lot of ways. I think it sets very reasonable expectations. If your expectation is to improve your overall health, your fitness, your strength, this is a really great launching point for you. So comment below if you have done this program before, or if you've got programs that you would like me to take a look at and make a review for. Subscribe if you haven't already, and go get friggin' strong.